Summer. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's an honor to have you. And yeah, I can't wait to dive into flow dreaming today.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. Me too. I'm happy to be here and spreading the word. I feel like a I don't know, I don't know where I was going with that. An evangelist is what I was thinking, but it's not quite.
Yeah, well, I want to just before we get into flow dreaming, could you give us just a little bit of your background? Because we talked a little bit before the recording, but I mean, you have done so much with Hay House and Wayne Dyer and like everything you've done. I'm just like, I'm such a fan. And how did you get into all of this? Because it's like, it's absolutely incredible. Do you want to just give like a brief rundown?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So back in my 20s, I was a graphic designer and writer and editor, and I had started a little community paper uh, centered around writing and books. And I was desperately trying to make this free community journal a viable company. I had no idea what I was doing though. So I was rapidly losing all the money I had, and all the money I was earning was either buying top ramen or going back into, publishing this thing. And I remember getting so upset about how I couldn't figure out how to run this company that I would call my mom, and the two of us together would do our, back in the day, we had different forms of manifesting, right? So we would do our creative visualization, we would do our affirmations. And I joke, she was like my diet buddy, like we'd call each other for support. I'd call her crying, oh my gosh, I can't pay these bills. She said, okay, then we'll just manifest it. We'll make it work. We'll make it happen. And it was during that time that something really different happened. We were both kind of, I come from a very intuitive family, if you can't tell already, if this is just what we do.
That's so amazing. And that's how my
Yeah,
mom is with me. So I love
yeah.
that you and your mom are like that. That's so cute.
Yeah, so something different happened, and we began describing it to each other. It's like we were in a bigger space, and the communication was much more apparent and clear. And we just felt like, where are we? What is this? So that set me on a journey to discover what later became flow dreaming. But one of the hallmarks of flow dreaming is you get what you're ultimately after. And what I was ultimately after was not to have a community paper about books and literature. My bigger, deeper self, my purpose, if you will, was to be in a place where I could talk to the world in a big way, where I could share something that perhaps only I could share, um, that was calling on me. So what ended up happening is I had to shut the paper down, and I ended up sending off a single little letter to, you guessed it, there were only two publishers in town at the time. One of them was Hay House, and one of them was they did like picture books for like, toddlers. So I'd be laying out pictures of zebras day after day after day and doing the ABCs. And I said, no, 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 I'll do Hay House. I sent them a letter and I said, hey, I'll lay out your books for you and your card decks. Are you interested? I never called them. I never followed up. I never even looked if they had a job posting. It was just a blind letter. Lo and behold, I get a call. Yes, we're interested. Yes, would you come and start doing this? So my life, my flow, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, my life, you know how there are these pivot points in your life path?
Yes.
This came about, and I fought it actually. I freelanced there for a number of years before my boss said, will you please just work for me now? Will you please just work for me? And I said, no, I like freelancing. I don't want to work for you. One thing leads to another. Of course, I end up working there. And then, of course, from there, I ended up just one day randomly saying, I'm going to do an introduction to one of the workshops that were being recorded for cassette tapes and CDs at the time, if you can believe that. And from there, things just kind of got into a whole other place. I began sharing flow dreaming with everybody around me at the company. I always joke how, you buy lottery tickets as a group when you work someplace often, you're supposed to share the winnings. So we'd buy our lottery tickets, and then we'd go out in the warehouse area where all the books were piled up, and we would flow dream. And I'd say, okay, we're going to manifest some winnings. We didn't, but I certainly won because before long, Hay House had given me a multi-book deal, and they'd put me in charge of their entire audio division. And that is when I learned how to produce, make programs, shows, webinars, podcasts, how to take people's collected material and assemble it into something really beautiful and useful, and how to get it to the consumer, to people like me. So I spent a decade there. And eventually what happened is I left and began doing Flowdreaming full time, building my own company because it really got to be a bit much. You know, I'd work all day and I had two little babies at home, toddlers at home at the time. And then I'd have to come home and pack up boxes and boxes of CDs because remember, this was like 2009. It's not that long ago, but it is long ago now.
Yeah.
And I would have to ship them to people all over the world because they wanted my Flowdreaming and they wanted more and they wanted me to, do more. And so I said, okay, fine. Flow, you've got me. And here we go. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome. I had Louise Hay. She was my big boss, the company owner. And of course, Wayne Dyer and I partnered for about 5 years as I produced his podcast and eventually became kind of his co-host for a show. So I learned a lot. I just got steeped in, I call it an MBA in flow dreaming and personal growth. They should have
Oh,
paid me. I
yeah.
should have paid them. I should have paid them for the education.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the leaders, that we all learned from. And it's just so incredible. I'm getting like the chills just like hearing this story because it's like you
Yeah,
completely, I feel like, manifested everything along the way. And
I,
just like you with little kids at home at the time, that's kind of like the phase of life that, I'm in now, just like making this business work. I'm like, nope, I'm going to be home with my kids. I don't want to go back to the 9 to 5. And
mhm,
it's pretty incredible when you set your mind to something and you believe that it can happen. So,
yeah.
so explain flow dreaming. Like, what is it? How do we do it? I really want to know like all the inner workings of this because it sounds so
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. So again, back in the day, we had certain forms of manifesting, co-creating. Jerry and Esther Hicks were just popping out and talking about getting in the vortex, and of course Wayne Dyer would be going on about the power of intention, and Louise would say, "Well, just do your affirmations, and that'll make things happen." And Shakti Gawain would say, "No, do creative visualization, visualize it down to the details." And I tried everything. And I discovered that it was really hard for me to simply hold my attention, hold my energy at a certain vibe or place.
Mhm.
And every time I'd be like, I'm a stressed out mom. I've got Cheerios pasted onto my elbows when I arrive at work in my suits and jackets. I can't keep my mind in this place. I mean, I'm putting out fires all day. And when I went to visualize, I just kind of felt like, okay, I can see it, but how do I know that that's actually even the most right thing for me? When I'm asking for something and I think I want it, but I have all these things that I wanted in the past and I didn't get them, but I got other things that were even better. What about all those things? There's got to be a different way. So Flow Dreaming stepped in and said, I am perfect for you. One, you can't meditate. I'm like, I know, I try and I try and I try, but my mind is just much too active and yappy. And
That's how I am too.
yeah,
Very much
I've
so.
actually I've had some people suggest that if we have ADHD, we discovered
Hmm.
that this technique is utterly ideal because one, we can hyper focus in that place and we give our mind something beautiful to do. So it's been great for this population. So that's sort of the reason it worked for me better, and that's why I began doing it. It is a very simple technique, and the thing I loved most about it is I could do it daily. I could do it like a practice. I could do it like other people did meditation or other people would do yoga. I could sit down, go into this place, open up this sort of divine communication, and every day kind of just move that water wheel a little more toward here's what I'm creating in my life. Here's who I'm becoming. So the way it works is that there are three components to it, and it's very simple. One of them is deep, profound emotion. The other one is moving into flow state, and the other one is guided daydreaming. So we start with just opening up our imagination. And I always say, look, guys, it's like when we daydream, we're just drifting off, right? Something snags our attention, and then we start kind of feeling it and seeing it and thinking around it. And before we know it, we've drifted into some other place and we've lost track of time. We don't even know where we are, what we're doing. Oh my God, I finished the dishes. Where was I? Because
Mhm.
we're someplace else. That someplace else is flow state. It's where you are in an optimal brain state. And for me, it's where you're even in a deeper state. So the father, they call it the father of flow. The father of flow, he's a psychologist, Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, positive psychologist. And he took it and sort of identified what it is, but he only applied it to like athletes and the perfect golf game and the scientific breakthrough and the moment of clarity when you're an author and you're totally absorbed. He applied it to things that we do, like physical things around us, which makes sense. He's in
Yeah.
the sciences and psychologist. I said, well, what if you take that state, and what if it's not just physical things? What if it's talking to a higher power, or opening a conduit, or communicating with the universe, or our own spirituality? What if we experience flow state there? So that eventually is what I realized what was happening when I described that story about my mom and I. It's like we entered flow. We entered this beautiful state. So we're daydreaming our way in, but unlike a regular daydream where you forget where you are, we are staying aware the whole time. Sort of like lucid dreaming when you wake up when you're dreaming, which
Hmm.
happens to some of us, and you can actually practice it and take courses in it. It's very fun. Um, we're going to stay aware when we are in this flow state. Now, the key here comes with, what do you do there? And this is where flow for me kind of graduates into a philosophy, because you can go in and say, I need a new job, or I need my current job to be better and bigger and more money. And you could just go in and just state the thing that is right next there down the road for you that you kind of identified in your head. Far better, however, is to do it the way I did with my old magazine. Look, I want my magazine to survive and thrive. I did that, but I had another deeper feeling that I didn't quite know how to utilize yet, or identify, but today I do, and this is where I want you to go. I call it, you go to your emotional endpoints. What I really wanted was a venue, a way to express to the world something that was creative and challenging for me, where I would continuously be growing, yet helping others, and that would capitalize on whatever my uniquest and most valuable talents were, that would also completely support me and my family so that I could have the lifestyle I wanted. So I wouldn't ever have to worry that I wouldn't be able to do this level of work. Okay, that's a description of it, but there's an emotion it baked into every one of those. Valued, heard, operating in my creative, sweet spot. Like, there's feelings behind all of that.
Hmm.
So when you go into flow, you have to identify what are the feelings behind the thing. And everything we want, if we think about it, has a feeling behind it, no matter what. Like, and that's an exercise I give my students. Write down the thing you want. Well, I need more money. Okay, why? So I can feel safe? Well, why do you need to, why do you feel unsafe? Yes, if I don't have enough income flowing in constantly, I get anxiety. I feel like it could be taken away. Okay, so what's the feeling behind that? Well, if I have it, I feel secure. I feel like I'll have freedom. There's no risk anymore that I'm going to have to go back and work a 9 to 5 again. So what you're really going for is such a deep sense of security and safety that the risk has been removed from your life, that you will be hurt or punished or fail. Those are the feelings. What does that feel like? God, that feels joyful. I mean, that feels like freedom. That feels like I've proven myself to the universe, and it smiled back at me and said, I've got you. Said, those are your emotions. That's what you want to feel. I need you to go practice those feelings. Practice it in the sphere of your money or your work. Like, in this part of my life, this is how I feel. If you do that, what you're doing is blowing open the doors. The universe can now say, there are 15 different ways I can get you to that feeling space, to get you to that experience. It might be the one that you've identified with your small little mind, or it might be that one over there that you've never even paid attention to at all. It may be the one that's really just right around the corner, but your mind hasn't been there, your heart, your energy hasn't been there, and you would have shut it down, but now you're wide open. And that's exactly when we get what I call those big pivot points, right? Like, so when I mailed that letter off to Hay House, that was a huge pivot point for me. I didn't even know. All I knew is I need something. I need something. And I'm open. And I'm ready. So we can all look back and see like certain pivot points where our life kind of veered into like this new direction that almost happened without us even realizing it. And it's often not the thing we've really worked so hard at, but it was the right thing, or the right person, like falling in love or meeting your partner. It's like, oh gosh, I met him buying milk at the grocery store. Like, how did that happen? I wasn't even looking. Like, boom, it's just right time, right place, right everything. So this is kind of in a nutshell how we manifest and what we look for. But the real big picture is even beyond that. Flow for me is a state of utter and perfect alignment with the universe. It is the place where if I'm in this feeling state, if I'm in this groove in my life, like if we think about days that are perfect for us, like we're in the groove, everything goes right. That is optimal flow state where there is no resistance. And we're like, yeah, my hair was good. All my projects got done. I got complimented. I got money in the mail. I mean, it was just, everything was so good today. Like, how about instead of waiting randomly for that to happen, what if we actually can cultivate that state? What if it's
Yes.
no longer luck?
Right.
Yeah. What
That
if
would
it's
be
something that,
amazing. I mean, and
yes.
that's a question I get. That's probably the number one question I get from people. How do I get into that, that state? I can't do it. And again, I can't meditate. I can't quiet my mind, like that kind of thing. So this is
Yeah.
perfect.
Exactly. So that's where this flow learning practice comes in because we recognize that we want to get ahead of the game. I always say, as manifestors, most of us are spending all of our time reacting to everything around us, reacting to this, reacting, responding to this. And most of our emotions, almost all the time, are brought up in us in response to something else, someone's behavior, something good or bad that happened, our own anxiety or stress about something that's already here occurring in our life. When we think about manifesting, that's the exact opposite. If we're always reacting to what's already occurred, it's kind of like we're just responding to what's already been made, but we're not actually responding to what hasn't yet been made. So I actually break it down. I call it pre-sponding or a presponse or a pre-action as opposed to a response or a reaction. And we turn the tables and we say, look, I am going to feel now the response to what has not yet occurred. And it's very different than quote, quote, faking it, right? That's an old school way of looking at it.
Mhm.
If you don't tell life, if you don't build it inside yourself, if you don't tell your whole being and build it inside your soul, this is who I am, how will life know? So we create what I call this energetic blueprint. So by practicing these emotional states and feeling them and identifying them when we're flow dreaming, we're actually reshaping ourselves. We are saying to life, this is what I'm becoming. You line up stuff to match me. Because otherwise, I'm going to go back and start matching you all day long, which is what I'm used to doing. But you match me. Here are the feelings that I need to experience in my life. These are my emotional endpoints right here, point blank. Take a look, because look, every single day I'm putting more of these in me. So if you imagine it's like going to a gym, every day you work out your biceps, at first nothing happens. A year later, you're ripped.
Yeah.
Same is true with this. Most people do stuff for their body, they do stuff for their mind, but when it comes to their life, crafting their life, their spirituality, their intentional connection to their greater being, they do nothing. They just read some
Mm.
books and try and absorb it. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's like you got to go to the gym with this. We go
Yes.
and flow dream every day. And it builds us. It's like pouring a teaspoon of sand on the beach. After a while, you're going to have a big sand castle. Inside of me right now are years of practice of very intentional feelings that my life now gets to read into me as a soul, as a being. Like every piece of information, every experience we ever have is encoded in us, becomes part of us, literally part of us, never goes away. The ancient beings that we are. So my drive is to create so much of these intentional positive feelings in me that it takes over, that it's more than 50% of who I am, because that's what I want the universe to read from me. Anyway, I know I'm going all over the place, but there's a lot of interesting concepts built in. And just going back to that state of pure flow and pure ease, alignment is number one. And just remembering that if you're standing in the middle of a bunch of roads going off in every direction, and every road leads to a potential outcome around something you think you want, just by law of nature, one road will be completely blocked, the most difficult, like 100%. One road will be completely open, the most ease filled, flow filled, complete lack of resistance, and a bunch of roads in between, ones that are 50% rotten, 50% good. And I always say, like, some are like have down trees and power lines. Like, don't go down that road, because you're going to be knocking down resistance constantly until you realize, oh, I want to ask for the road that's the most flowing, easy, and open. I want that one. And we forget sometimes that we can ask for that. And so we've been taught to just duke it out on the one we're on and do the things that aren't working over and over again.
Well,
And
yeah, I feel like we've
mistrusting.
been conditioned to believe that it has to be hard, hard work, it has to be hard. And so I love that visualization because I'm trying to help people break through that conditioning and say, but why? Like, what if it could be easy? What if it could feel good? Because guess what? It can. There's lots of different ways to get there. You're just choosing the one that's hard because that's kind of the way we were brought up. It's supposed to be hard and stressful and
Yeah,
and so this is like really helping people break through all those years of conditioning and choose the path that is best for them. I love this.
precisely. And I agree that hard work is really important, but think of a swimmer, and there's a current out there. In fact, I live by the Pacific, and yesterday it was so windy that you could actually see the current traveling, parallel to the shore. If you're a swimmer and you're going against the current, you're going to be exhausted. It's like a riptide. You're going to be so exhausted. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be fighting to stay in place. If you turn around and you go with that current, you're going to go so fast and so far. The wind under your wings, essentially.
Yeah.
I say that's where you want to put your hard work. Your hard
Mhm.
work shouldn't be encountering something that is not behind you and with you. Your hard work should be when you're in flow, when you're in a state of ease. The harder you work there, the bigger your payoffs will be. So I'm like, that's where you want to work hard. And the working hard feels very different because you're getting payoffs, you're getting successes, you're getting wins, you're getting encouragement, you're getting feelings that come back to you of yes and more yes, yes and more yes. So if you're not feeling that when you're working hard in the wrong area. You're working hard in a state of resistance. So remember, there's resistance and there's flow. And we want to identify, where are we experiencing resistance and where are we identifying flow? And some of us will say, I don't even know. I'm not experiencing either. Like, what do I do, Fred? What do I do then?
Right.
It's a good question. Then what we say to our flow, what we say to our future self is, I need to be where, again, what are your emotional endpoints? I want to feel secure. I want to feel free. I want to feel like my talents are being seen, acknowledged, and paid for. Right? I want to have good income. I want to have good relationships. I'm feeling this joy and security and abundance and all of these feelings all around me. I'm like, just start with that and let's see what might already be there waiting to just come into your life. It's just been waiting for you to open the door a crack so it could tumble in. You don't even have to know what you want, in other words, but everybody knows the feelings they want. Without 100%, everybody knows. Everybody
Yep.
knows.
Oh, 100%. That's such a good way to look at it because it really is like the feeling over the thing. And I'm just thinking about like money, because everyone always that's like the first thing. Oh, I want more money. But then
Yeah.
I find when you're working with someone, it really never is about the money. It it
Nope.
goes so much deeper. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
what if we start with that point? What if we start with the feeling that you want to have? That feeling of
Yeah.
security, like you're saying, like that's the starting point. This is like an
Mhm.
aha moment for me right now. So thanks
Yes.
for bearing with me. I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
No. Um, that is the starting point, right? The feeling space. I think people, like you said about money, I always say, look, you've had a string of goals your whole life, and you've actually reached plenty of them. But what happens is you reach one and another one pops up. It's like playing whack-a-mole. I mean, the horizon that's always moving, and you never really reach it. And you always think it's the next thing that's going to make you feel XYZ. It's not the next thing. You feel XYZ and let the things match you, because otherwise you're just going to be churning through life, getting the next thing on this hamster wheel, never reaching that place of joyful inner fulfillment in all the ways you want. We have to flip that script on its head, go into the opposite state. I'm fulfilled. I have my needs met. I am where I need to be. It's hard, I think, sometimes because, like you said, it's not about the money. Maybe one of the things that comes up is about trust. And there's a concept I have called the trifecta of trust. There's trust of self, trust of others, and trust of the universe. And typically when we can't shift into, okay, I believe this will work, it's because there's a part of us that wants to grab on and control. And that's sort of the dark side of the manifesting group. We want control, and that's why we manifest, so we get more control over our life. We actually have to learn to do the opposite. We're being tasked with, no, I want you to drop that control. I want you to just let it go. And you say, but I can't, because if I do, XYZ will happen. And it's like, well, what is that thing? Well, I don't really believe the universe will give it to me. Like when I'm working with somebody who wants a relationship, I don't really believe it's meant for me, not in this lifetime. It's never worked. I had bad parents, and I'll never meet the right person. It's just like, so you believe the universe loves you? Do you believe that you're loved? Yes. Do you believe that the universe is giving and bountiful and that there's plenty out there? Yes. Do you believe it gives love to other people? Well, yes. So why is the universe holding back the one thing from you that you want most? Because to me, that would be, if that was a parent, I would just take them to task on that. I would be like, why would you do that to your child? Why wouldn't you give them what they're craving and see what they can? Every parent wants their child to have everything. Piano lessons? Yes. Ice skating? Yes. Football? Yes. Whatever I can afford, I'm going to give to you.
Yeah.
So, like, you're telling the universe that you actually don't trust it because it hasn't given to you so far, because you can't figure out why. Like, we'll go into all that, but you need to understand your trust has been broken.
Mhm.
That's the first thing we want to fix. Or sometimes the trust is with other people.
Mhm.
So and so always betrayed me and broke my heart. At school, nobody invited me. I was the least popular person. I learned to go alone, and that I'm much safer by myself. I don't expect to be invited. I don't expect to be seen. I don't expect to be given raises. I'm other people, they have to really go the extra mile to prove themselves to me. And even then, I'm not sure. Like, okay, that's going to limit a lot of what the world is able to give you, because you're surrounded by other people. They are part of your flow, right? They are part of your future. And if you don't trust them, you're putting up walls left and right. Okay, trust of self. I don't trust that I can do it. I don't trust my decisions. I don't, when I've had good jobs or money coming in, I've screwed it up. Um, I've I've lost my money. I've spent it in bad ways. I don't trust me. I don't trust my own decision making. Okay, so those are areas that have to be addressed if you want to manifest what you're really looking for, manifest to the next level.
Mhm.
Those are places that get in the way. That's another passion of mine, is looking for patterns and blocks and things like that. But that's one of the main areas that I start with, because otherwise you'll try to manifest, you'll try to flow dream, and you'll be like, it's not working. It's not working. I'm like, yeah, I know. Because
Yeah.
you've got a foot on the pedal, foot on the brake. We are just squealing in the driveway right now. Not going anywhere. So
Right.
let's go deeper. Yeah.
Yeah. So how often do we do this practice? Because I'm thinking about going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so I'm assuming every day we should be trying to like tap into these emotions and or address
Right.
these things that are coming up. Um,
Mhm.
is there a certain time of day we do this? Like how many minutes do we have to spend? Or is it not
Yeah.
so rigid and it's just kind of more intuitive? How do you approach it?
Well, at my website, I have some guided meditations, guided flow dreams. Um, they're about 7 to 15 minutes long. And they'll walk you right through this experience where you will literally go into flow with me. And they're free, so anybody can go grab them. Sometimes I even do it like during an interview, but I don't know if we have enough time for that. Flow dreaming is not a rigid experience. I encourage a person to do it daily. It's something like meditation. You can do it by yourself, solo, Just take yourself into this space and walk yourself through it and walk yourself into the emotions and come up with some visuals. Or you can be guided and use like an audio, one of my audios for it, where I will do the work of telling you what to feel and telling you what to see. So the imagery we use is typically something that lets you feel like I'm going into a state of alignment. It's like a metaphor for it. For instance, I might say, let yourself be in a beautiful flowing current of energy and light. Let yourself be lifted and drawn forward, absolutely frictionless, no resistance. Let yourself be in a beautiful boat under a star-filled sky, and you're just gently being drawn forward into a place and space that feels like your absolute most right. So we'll use whatever imagery gets us into that feeling of I'm totally aligned with the universe right now. At a certain point, just like when you're daydreaming, you forget that you're where you are. And then you've entered into this state of pure communication and flow. So for some of us, we can get there in 2 minutes. Some of us need a little gentler walkthrough, and we need to relax a little bit more. And it takes about 5 or 10 minutes to get there. Staying in a state of pure emotional connected communication is the most difficult part to develop because most of us can't sustain an emotional state for more than, God, 30 seconds, a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If you do gratitude
Yeah.
practice, you felt gratitude, you could probably bring that up and feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm asking you to bring up more than gratitude. I want you to feel what it's like when all of your needs are met. I have everything I need into overflow. The prosperity overflows through me. Can you feel that emotion? And some people will be like, kind of, and others will be like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So you're going to practice that daily until you can feel that, until you can go right in, because now you're really sculpting that being that you are. And remember, flow dreaming is for everything. Like you can use it for healing. You can use it for manifesting like things, houses, cars, money, like basic stuff. But my favorite way to use it is to actually shift parts of my own being. So, for instance, I made a playlist recently called Limitless. And limitless means I want to break through some of those patterns and blocks in me. So I go into flow and I feel like all parts of me that play small are releasing and gone. My energy is so wide open right now to whatever my next step is. I can feel myself saying yes to things over and over again, all the right things. I can sense myself being seen, by all the right people, being invited, and really showing up completely, no hiding. Right. So that might be the whole intention of that flow dream, opening up a sense of limitlessness in me.
Mm.
Um, Other people might start with self-love, like, no, I need to go in and use something like I have one called dazzling self-love. I have another one called emotional ecstasy. I want to feel what it's like to think that I am the greatest thing on this planet. I'm like, if you can't feel that way because you resist it, even when I say those words, oh, that's a put down. Mom always said, don't think you're the number one. I'm like, but you need to at a certain point. What if you did? What would change around you if you felt like you really were that valuable? If you really were that valuable. So maybe somebody's going to work on self-love. And maybe someone else is going to put out a fire in their life. They just got laid off. And they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? All right, your flow dream is going to be this next job I get, my next career is going to suit me in ways that I could never dream of. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. I am so grateful that I was let go. I'm so grateful because this is exactly what I need right now to go into the space where I am truly on my path, and where whoever takes me in next, they are going to be so happy to find me. They are going to feel like they are the cat that ate the canary. They're going to just be like, oh my God, I got the best person. They're the most perfect person for this team. I can't, oh my God, I'm so lucky to have found them. That's your flow dream, right? So sometimes we're going to be fixing pain points, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're going to be intentionally crafting new directions and new parts of ourselves. Just depends on where we are in life. So practically speaking, you can work on whatever you want to work on right now. Whatever is the most pressing thing, I say start with that, right? Pour that in until you get movement and traction. And sometimes you won't get movement and traction in that area because it's the area you've been working on all along, and that's not actually the stuck thing. You've
Mm,
probably seen this as a coach, right? They're
yeah.
like, it's all about money. And you're like, actually, I'm sensing something else. It's
Yeah.
not about
Right.
money. You have a relationship that is stale and dying, and you're holding on to it, and you're holding on to everything in your life. Everything is stuck, stale, and dying, including your money. And you're trying to ignore this by putting the energy into that, but you're just bringing the same energy and swinging it over. Let's take care of that first. And as soon as you take care of that relationship, wow, isn't that weird? Somebody's called you up and said, I'm going to hire you. And you're like, I wasn't even trying. I'm like, I know. You've been banging your head against the wrong thing all this time. So, this world that we're in of growth and manifesting, there's a lot to it.
There's so much to it. And I feel that sense of limitless just listening to you because it's like just that reminder that it doesn't have to be hard and the universe will provide for
Yeah.
us. We just have to tune into that. So you know what I'm going to be doing all week now is listening to like all of your playlists. So can you tell everyone where to
Awesome.
find this? Because I know everyone's going to be like, "Where? What is the website? Where do I go?" So how does everyone listen?
Okay, so by the way, I have one called Everything is Easy. You
Ooh,
might love that one.
yes.
Imagine just pouring ease into everything in your life. Everything gets a little easier and faster. All the wheels are greased. You get where you're going um, twice as quickly. Another one that's similar to that is called The Yellow Brick Road of Yeses. I love that one. And then I have a sort of fantasy style one, which is, I don't know, I just always wanted to play with like, mermaids and unicorns. So the overflowing fountain of, or the overflowing garden of delights. It's in a playlist whose name is, oh gosh, I'm forgetting now. But anyway, go to flowdreaming.com first of all. You can get
Okay.
the two free ones. I also have an app, the Flow Dreaming for Meditation and Manifesting app. It comes with the two free ones and a tutorial that you can listen to and walks you through the process. Um, and of course, I have my podcast, Flow Dreaming, which I teach people about mindset as well as some flow dreaming during, kind of weave it in.
Mhm.
But probably those are the best places. And I suggest getting a playlist or joining me on one of my free events that I have usually, well, all summer long, I'm having some free events for people that they can come and I will manifest live with a group of people. We get together and we go into the space. And I always say it's like, I feel like, when you see a flock of birds and there's the one bird in the front and everybody fans in a V behind you, that's what I do. I'm like, I'm going to lead you guys. Here's where we're going. I want you to follow and to sink in, sink SYNC and SINK. We're going to go into this state. So I have so many resources for people, but really the playlist, the app, I have a YouTube tutorial that's free as well. They're all great places to start. But
Oh,
step into the
this is
universe and
great.
start trying it. And honestly, it's
Yes.
it's it's such a easy thing to do, because if you just put on an audio and you let somebody just take you into that space, you just went to the gym for the day. You're done. You like 15 minutes later, you're done. You've done
And
it.
everyone has 15 minutes to improve their life and manifest their dreams. So, yes, like it's and that's you make it so easy because really you're just guiding us through it. I know I'm like dying to go and like listen now. So I know everyone else probably is. So thank you for
You're
walking us through
welcome.
all this. This is absolutely incredible. And I have one last question. What
Mhm.
are you currently trying to manifest in your life?
Ooh, so I have been obsessed with manifesting for going on 24 years now. The other side of manifesting is, again, part of the philosophy. When I'm manifesting, I'm putting information into the universe. I'm describing who I am. I'm taking the threads of my future and sort of weaving them. But information is just information. I'm either putting information into the world, like sending stuff out from my computer to the internet and email, or I'm pulling information from the rest of the world, the internet and the email. So I am actually starting to move into the world more of intuition and mediumship, which is something I've always done. Like if I'm working with a person privately, I'm literally going to be reading their minds and reading other people's information and giving them insights, um, as well as showing them this is where you are in life and here's where your next step should be and here's where your ease is and here's where your blocks are. So I'm manifesting, I call it my second half, where I'll be teaching more and more about intuition, and I have a book around it because I want to teach it to my daughter, and I want to capture all my mom's information as well. She's an incredible intuitive and medium. So I want to take sort of these multi-generations and get it all out in a book and then begin teaching whoever wants to show up for that. So I'm sort of balancing myself out is what I'm doing right now. So
Oh,
I'm going to develop that area over the next, I'd say, decade. And I'm thinking about legacy at this point.
this is so incredible. You are an incredible person, Summer, and I'm just again, I am so honored to have you on. I could
Uh,
keep you all day, really, but I won't do that. I want to respect your time. But thanks for coming on. I'm gonna go check out Flow Dreaming and follow this next phase because I everything you're saying about intuition and mediumship, like that's we're so on the same page, and I just can't wait to
yeah.
see what you do next. So thank you for coming on, and you're always welcome to come back on the podcast. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Hey, can I say one last thing?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. When you experience the flow dream, remember it's not meditation. Because sometimes people get a little like, why are you talking fast? Why are you talking with so much emotion? The visuals are moving too quickly. Everybody's one last thought. Think of it more like an energy activation than a meditation. Then you'll start to get it. Okay, that's it.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. I'm so glad you said that. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. All right. So everyone go to flowdreaming.com, go and check those out. I'll be right there with you checking them out. And Summer, thanks again. Hope to have you back someday. And thank you everyone for tuning in.